Walking barefoot, is it good or is it bad? That's the question we're going to be answering on today's episode. If you don't know who I am, my name is Will Harlow and I'm the over 50s specialist physio here at HT Physio in Farnham. And today I'm going to be revealing whether walking barefoot can help you with foot pain, ankle pain, knee pain, hip pain or back pain. Now, walking barefoot has become a big craze recently. A lot of people are saying that it has potential to help us with our pains in our knees or backs. And other people are saying you should buy these barefoot shoes because they're amazing. They take away all the pain in the lower limb. And as a physio, I just wanted to come and give you some of the facts about whether walking barefoot is actually good or not for your health. So this is totally unbiased. I don't have a strong opinion either way, but I just want to lay out the facts for you. So let's talk about walking barefoot, because there are good things about walking barefoot and there are bad things as well. So let's talk about the positives first. So the first positive thing about walking barefoot is it does indeed increase foot muscle strength. And this is one of the things that the people who like walking barefoot tell everyone that it does. And that's because it's true. So within our foot, we've got over 20 intrinsic foot muscles. They live mostly underneath the foot and they help to maintain your foot arch and control the toes. And when we walk barefoot, we don't have cushioning all around the foot like we do with a shoe. So those muscles have to work harder. And having stronger foot muscles has been correlated with better foot posture, better balance, and better control over the limbs all the way up to the hip and the lumbar spine. So walking barefoot does increase foot strength, and that is a big positive. Now, the second positive thing about walking barefoot is it does actually give you wider toes. So these are your toes here. You can see the 5 here. And when we walk in shoes, especially tight shoes like heels or court shoes, what tends to happen over the years the toes get crushed inwards. Now, the problem with this is, first of all, it can cause problems with the toes, like bunions, which can appear here, or issues on the other side, which are similar to bunions. And the other thing it can cause is pain. So if you have these being crushed together, it can cause issues with the metatarsals around here. It can cause stress and tension on the small joints in the foot and foot pain, and even increase the risk of plantar fasciitis too. Now, if you have your toes crushed together, another negative of that is the fact that we're going to lose balance. So we're not going to be able to stand on one leg or walk quite so well, because we've quite simply narrowed our base of support. And quite often what also happens with people who wear tight shoes is their toes are pushed upwards slightly, so they're retracted, which means when they stand, their toes are not making contact with the floor, which means they've lost a couple of inches of support on the floor as well. Now, if you walk barefoot, what you'll notice is over a period of a few months, your toes will start to do this. So you'll start to get wider toes. And some people think that looks quite ugly, but it's actually a really good thing, because what it's doing is it's spreading your load over the floor, and meaning that you can increase your balance because you've got more surface area in contact with the ground. So that's one of the big positives of walking barefoot. Now, another positive of walking barefoot is the fact that it can improve your biomechanics. And biomechanics is a fancy term for just the way your body moves. And we have a set way that our body is supposed to move in certain actions. So there's a certain way we should squat, there's a certain way we should lunge, and if we don't do it quite as we were designed, then it puts stress on certain parts of the body. Now, when you're wearing trainers or big cushion shoes, it completely alters your biomechanics because it lifts your heel and it provides cushioning in areas that aren't used to having cushioning through our evolution. So it means we squat differently, we stand differently, and we walk differently when we're wearing shoes. Now, there's a chance that when we go barefoot, our biomechanics can improve. But this is dependent on a lot of different factors, and that brings us to some of the drawbacks of going barefoot. So one of the main drawbacks of walking around barefoot is the fact that you've had a whole lifetime of wearing shoes. So if you suddenly take your shoes away and you ask your body to go back to its normal biomechanics, the way it's evolved, instantly like this, often it can't handle it. And that can lead to increased stress on the body because you've made a massive sudden change. The biomechanics of the whole body have instantly been asked to change, and that can cause excess stress and tension on various tissues. So one of the big problems people have when they start walking barefoot is they do it all of a sudden. They get rid of all their shoes around the house. They stop wearing big chunky shoes. They start wearing barefoot shoes when they're walking outside. And quite frankly, it's just too much too soon. The body's not used to it. There's a lot of stress and tension on the joints, and then knee pain, back pain, and hip pain actually gets worse. So if you're going to do it, the key is to introduce it slowly. But let's talk about some of the other bad things about walking barefoot. One of the things that people don't often realize is as individuals, we have different levels of cushioning on our heel and on the ball and sole of our foot. Now, a lot of this is set by our genetics because we have little fat pads, we call them, underneath our feet, which provide cushioning. Now, some people have got quite nice plump fat pads and others have got very slim, very flat fat pads underneath their feet. And unfortunately, there's not much you can do about it. But if you're one of the people with very flat fat pads, if you suddenly start walking barefoot, you've got no cushioning between your bone and the ground. So what's happening is all of that impact is going to make your foot sore and may lead to problems going further up the leg as well. So you need to take an honest appraisal of your own foot. If you can very easily feel the bones underneath, you probably have quite small fat pads, which means that walking barefoot may not be a good idea for you because it may cause more pain. Now, if you're one of the lucky people with quite a bit of cushioning, then you may find that walking barefoot becomes is easier for you and doesn't cause pain. Now, one of the other bad things about walking barefoot is when you take your shoes away, you have very little shock absorption. So if you have arthritis in your ankle or in your knee or in your hip or in your spine, when you've taken away your shoes, you don't have that nice cushioned layer on your trainers anymore. So when you make contact with the ground, more force is going to be going up the leg. That's just a biomechanical fact. Now, this may improve as you practice walking barefoot, but when you start, it's definitely going to be the case that there'll be more shock going up the leg, especially if you're walking around on hard surfaces. So bear it in mind, if you do have bad joints, walking barefoot may be more painful for you. Now, the other thing that can cause problems is if you've got a history of plantar fasciitis or if you've had an injury to your heel in the past, you are going to find that more stress and strain is put on the heel when you first start walking barefoot. So some people who've had plantar fasciitis, walking barefoot is not a good idea because it can cause that problem to reoccur. And then the final consideration, and this is a massive one that I don't hear many people talk about, is the fact that when we've evolved, when we were in our caveman days, the walking we would have been doing would mostly have been on soft surfaces. So it would have been like sand or like dust on the floor, or it would have been grass, or it would have been walking around in mud. All of these surfaces would have been softer than the concrete that we have on our roads today. Okay, so that's a massive thing to understand. So if you've got like a stone floor at home, or if you've got concrete outside, or if you've got a stone patio, walking around on that surface is way harder than the surfaces our ancestors used to walk on. So when people say, oh, we were made to walk barefoot, that's kind of the truth, but we were also made to walk on softer ground. So now we've got these man-made hard surfaces. If you start to walk barefoot on that, remember that the stress going through your feet is higher than the stress that would have been going through our ancestors' feet. So when people are saying, I don't understand why walking barefoot is not comfortable, it might be because you're walking barefoot on ground that is too tough. And that's definitely the case if you're just starting off. So if you want to get into barefoot walking, and I don't necessarily think that's bad, start off on carpet, start off on grass, start off on sand, start off on soft ground that's going to cushion your feet before you move onto harder ground. And definitely don't wear your barefoot shoes to begin with on concrete all the time. So some people buy them, they put them on all day, they wear them out in the street, they wear them to go shopping in, they wear them to the gym, and all of those floors tend to be hard. Okay, so if you introduce it, first of all, I would recommend introducing it on carpet, just to make sure you can get used to it, and then if you wish to progress afterwards, you can. Now that all that's been said, obviously one of the main benefits of wearing barefoot shoes is to improve strength in your feet. But I'm going to show you another alternative to do that, which doesn't involve walking around barefoot. So let's have a look at this exercise, which is a brilliant way to build your foot strength without having to go barefoot all the time. So let's have a look at the exercise now. So this is a great alternative exercise to walking barefoot if you want stronger intrinsic foot muscles which live underneath the arch and underneath the toes and also in the lower part of the lower leg. So all you need for this is a towel, lay it down on the floor and put half of your foot on it with the heels on the carpet. And all you're going to do is keep your heel on the floor, use your toes to pull the towel in without lifting your heel. And